Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is essentially near and dear to my heart, which is the role of health in entrepreneurship. Why is it so? Why do I like this topic so much? And this is, over the years, it's become more and more important for me. One, I am an entrepreneur, and I realize that there's a certain spirit I think that all entrepreneurs have. And I'll go to that in just a moment. But if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, Dr. Bart, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't own a business. Before you check out, hear me out when I say this. We are all entrepreneurs. At bare minimum, we are all in the business of taking care of ourselves, of making sure that our bodies, our minds, our souls on this earth are doing the best that they can. So we are all entrepreneurs. And at bare minimum, it is of our own health and our own vitality and the own purpose that we have here in life. And then for many of you listen to this, because I know many of you I've met as I've been out speaking to entrepreneurs across the country, that many of you are entrepreneurs. So this is specifically for all of us that are entrepreneurs, and all of us even that are not by title entrepreneurs. Listen closely and listen. I think so that means everybody. Moms, you are entrepreneurs. You have to be in the business taking care of yourself. You're in the business of taking care of your family. Dads, maybe you have a job. You are in the business of taking care of things. Everybody is in the business of doing something. So this podcast is kind of dedicated to all of us on that level of things. There are a couple other reasons that this is near and dear to my heart. I think there's a special personality trait that entrepreneurs have, and you can adopt it. You can just be born with it. But hopefully everyone gets this at some point. And I believe deep in their hearts that entrepreneurs just have this zest, this quest to just go for more. And I really believe that this is one of the reasons we were put on this earth, to have the opportunity to say, listen, yeah, why not? Why not go for it? Why not? Yeah, why don't I do that? Why don't I open a business? Why don't I go for more? There's nothing wrong with that. I believe that it is that quest that's hard, that's frightening, that's exciting, all of those things. I believe that is one of the gifts that God gave us, an opportunity to go ahead and seek out all these different crazy things that come up in our brains. And listen, sometimes, probably more often than not, our entrepreneurship creates half the stress in our lives. I know that holds true for me, and yet I wouldn't trade it. So I want to give you a little background on my journey as an entrepreneur and where I was relative to where I am now. And there's two different places. And then also I'm going to make sure that you have three very specific strategies when it comes, if you're an entrepreneur. There are three very specific things I would start you with. These are the three things I would say, keen in on these three things when it comes to your health. And that is your starting point. There might be 1,000 other things as well, but there are three things for an entrepreneur we have to focus on. And I've learned that over the years, and I'll explain to that when we get to that. Yet, a couple of things. Let me back up and share with you my entrepreneurial kind of journey here. So I start out when I finished chiropractic college. Even before I was in chiropractic college, I had newspaper routes. I had a small roofing company. that was just funny stuff along the ways. I had more jobs than most people, by the time I was 30 or 25 or 30 than most people have in the course of their life. So I was able to gain a lot of experience and learn a lot of things that I liked and a lot of things that I didn't like. Sometimes I performed well, sometimes I didn't. Yet I learned something along the way with that, man, there's so many good things out there. There's so many opportunities out there. I want to kind of do a little bit of everything. And then I fell in love, stumbled upon, or was guided directly to the chiropractic profession. When I found chiropractic, I knew, no doubt about it, no matter how hard this was or what was on the outcome or the other side of it, that this was for me. It felt right from the inside out. And I don't know that all the things you do have to be bred out of passion. I think they can just be bred out of good businesses decisions as well, and let that drive the passion. But for me, I was really lucky in the sense that I fell in love with the opportunity to be a chiropractor. So that drove it. Yet I will tell you, still statistically, over 50% of chiropractic offices and businesses fail because of their inability to be great entrepreneurs. So if you're listening to this as a healthcare practitioner, anyone, I know I have a lot of dentists, a lot of doctors, a lot of orthos, a lot of chiropractors that listen to this. Just hang in there because this will apply to you. So with that being said, I started my chiropractic journey about 30 years ago. We'll say that's my first big business opportunity. Then as time went, I started to kind of add on to it, I'd say, start to do some other things. I started to do a fair amount of public speaking. Then I held some seminars, and that really lit me up. So it was an and world. And I believe that there's a great opportunity to have what we call the and world. I do one thing and I do another thing. For me, it was always easy because my and was almost always in line with my passion and what I kind of did, my bread and butter, if you want to call it. So I started speaking about health, personal development, how to level up life, all of those good things. Absolutely loved it. A lot of work, though. A lot of travel, a lot of preparation, a lot of mind energy, a lot of mind power that was required. Also started doing a fair amount of real estate investing. We remodel homes. My wife and I have been real estate investors for several decades now. Have a lot of passion for that. Didn't require as much day-to-day energy. But here's what happened. And this is why this podcast, I think, is so important for so many to hear. And when I'm on the road, which I am frequently now, speaking to other entrepreneurs from around the country, speaking to mastermind groups, there might be like I said, they might be chiropractors, might be healthcare professionals, might be dentists, they may be real estate professionals, real estate investors, they may be mastermind groups of one type of profession or another. Regardless, what I do know is this: there's some very specific, repetitive challenges that they face, and I faced them early in my career, in my early 40s. I was out speaking already, so I was kind of having two jobs, more or less. I would work in the clinic Monday through Thursday and often go speak on the weekends. Not every weekend, maybe like 10 times a year. And what I found, I got burnt out. I had to give up this thing that I literally loved doing. I loved speaking to audiences. I still do. I had to give it up. I was getting run down. I was getting sick. I started coming home saying things, I got another cold on the plane, or started making up all these excuses. And a common trait amongst entrepreneurs, and this is very common and very specific, is that entrepreneurs typically use less excuses. And let me explain some of that. Not always when it comes to your health, when it comes to other things. If the market changes, regardless what industry you're in, entrepreneurs do not blame the market. It doesn't do them any good. We know that instantly we have to pivot. So you do not hear entrepreneurs bitch about the market. You don't hear them bitch about whether it be interest rates or any of that stuff, because it doesn't do any good. So they know they have to take personal responsibility of pivoting their businesses so they can continue to produce, so they continue to be successful. And a lot of entrepreneurial spirit is driven from the desire to go for more. And then sometimes it's a necessity, like literally we have to put food on the table. So we got to get shit done. And moms, so everyone listening, again, whether you're a mom, a dad, or you have a different job, whatever it may be, listen, you still have to get your thing done. You still have to show up the best version of yourself. And that's why I consider everybody an entrepreneur. You must be in the business of being the best version of yourself. That's when you're the most valuable mom, the most valuable dad, the most valuable brother-in-law, employee, status, whatever it may be. You are the best when you've taken care of your own personal business. So anyways, my journey of getting exhausted and sick and tired, I eventually started to say things like, this isn't worth it. Or I don't even know how much I articulated other than I burnt myself out. And how did I burn myself out? And here it is, folks. Entrepreneurs, typically what eventually starts our gig is that we have an amazing amount of passion and grit. Yep, grit. We are willing to outwork anybody. Moms, I know you get this. So again, I'm speaking to everybody. But the key characteristic of an entrepreneur is that they will outwork anybody. They do not need weekends off. They don't need nights off. You will work 7 days a week. And listen, you love it or hate that message, but the entrepreneur, you're listening to me right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you don't often take those times off. You take vacations, but when it's go time and game time, you have one thing in mind, and it's get the job done, which may mean working nights, working weekends, working the mornings, whatever it may be. And that is part of the success stories. Everyone you hear out there has done some extraordinary push. And sometimes the push is for months. Sometimes it's for decades, depending on how hard you're pushing or where you're going with it. And yes, there's a certain level of balance, but it's never balanced. It's never equal in terms of family time and work time. It is never equal in terms of play time and work time. Work time is always going to outweigh it, and there's nothing wrong with that. The other skill of an entrepreneur is often that they're very good at being present, meaning that they're really, really good at being in business. And when they finally carve out time for themselves or for their families or for whatever it may be, they're usually pretty good at putting it down for that short period of time, knowing that they're going to go back and grind. But here's what happens. And this is what happened to me. The passion was there and the grit was there. The health strategy was not. I burnt myself out. I literally drove myself to what I didn't even know existed. It was something called adrenal fatigue. And is that one of the reasons why I travel around the country right now talking about and teaching to other doctors what is adrenal fatigue? How do we wake up one day? It doesn't happen overnight where you've slept 8 hours, but you're exhausted. Folks, adrenal fatigue is no joke. And there's some that say it doesn't exist until it exists in your life. Call it adrenal dysfunction, whatever other name that you want to have it. It's when you've pushed too long without replenishing. And you can't replenish overnight and get one good night's sleep. Typically to have adrenal dysfunction or adrenal exhaustion, it takes years, if not months at least, but usually years. So with that being said, I got to give up the very things that I absolutely loved doing. I was having impact, making money, all the above. Had to give it up because my body failed me. One of the messages and one of the things that I see most commonly is that entrepreneurs hit a health wall. And here's how it looks. If you're listening to this and I've kind of got your ear a little bit, here's how it feels. You've typically gotten up every single day, didn't matter how many hours you got to sleep, and you get up and you're excited to get ripping into the day. You're driven, you got grit, you got passion. Maybe you only slept 4 hours last night, but you get up and rip at it. And you're actually motivated. You feel good because you're so driven. That goes on for days, weeks, months, years. Then you find yourself, and this is typically after being an entrepreneur for a couple decades, maybe a couple businesses, some better than others. And then you wake up one day and you know what? Now all you're using is grit. And it doesn't feel as fluid anymore. It doesn't feel as in the flow, as motivating as it once was. Now you're using your grit that you got grit. And instead of doing it out of desire, you start doing it out of necessity. Not just because you need money, but maybe you've built this empire and you now have to, so therefore you do. But it feels different. And I'm speaking to all of you that are starting to feel a little bit of that. I don't care if this is a feeling of being a mom, dad, an employee, but when you wake up and you're kind of like, here we go again. If that is you, listen closely because it is time that you start to invest in your health and understand what that means. All right, so I'm going to shift gears here. I can have that conversation for a long period of time. I'll tell you what, I'm going to extend that conversation a little bit. Then we go fast forward. I had to learn the hard way. I had to shut things down. I had to learn how to say no to just about everything. I was coming home being exhausted. My workouts are no longer workouts. They were just maintaining life, quite frankly. Everything went downhill. And so I had to reduce the amount of energy I was putting out so I could at least perform at the very few tasks that had to be done, like go to the clinic, take care of patients, etc. I became a lesser version of myself, lesser version of a husband, lesser version of a friend, a family member, all the above, a lesser brother, all the above, because I was exhausted. And make no mistake, folks, if you are exhausted every day, and this is going to hurt to hear this, but if you're exhausted every day, you're not that good to everybody. You're not that great of a brother. You're not that great of a father. You're not that great of a son, of a husband, of a wife. You're not if you're exhausted every day. And this is what I mean by we are in the business of taking care of ourselves. And I'm saying this as I started, that this comes from a little bit from the heart today because I've been there. And that version is always knocking on the door. So there's a relentless pursuit and a relentless strategy that I now put in play. So one of the reasons I feel so comfortable at times being hard with you or hard with some of my patients, or I don't know if hard is the right word, but kind of pointed, is because I'm living the same damn life you're doing. I know how hard it is to get up and do it again every single day. I know how challenging sometimes life can be. And as a result of it, the answer is get a relentless pursuit and get good strategies. So today I'll talk to you about the strategies. So fast forward the last couple of years, if you paid attention. So I turned my energies, all that energy, that focus and that drive into my health, that of my health and of my wife's health. And as a result of it, I might be might be to some degree the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And I'm no longer 20, I tell you that. So I'm 55, and I'm not saying that I can do what I did when I was 25. I'm not saying that yet. I am saying that my ability, my capacity to handle stressors, my capacity to be predictable with my energy, my capacity to be mentally focused, and all of those things that allow me to be a successful person, to be a better husband, to be a better brother, to be a better colleague, to be a better friend, to be a better doctor, all these things. Those things are dialed in at this point, where they were not dialed in at one point. So did I have to do these to some degree by necessity? Bet your ass I did. I literally everything was at risk if I didn't take better care of myself. And I hope you hear what I said, because if you don't take better care of yourself and you are in the business of taking care of yourself, things are at risk, everything. So the cool thing is, if you've listened to my podcast or know a little bit about me, I'm very open with the different things we've done. Now my wife and I have opened several businesses over the last couple of years. And when I get interviewed by other people like myself or by other entrepreneurs, which I just got interviewed again recently, and they asked me, why all the businesses? Why all of a sudden you're doing all these things? Why did you open up an organic cafe? Is that something you always dreamed about? No, it was one of those things, man, what if I did? What would happen if I did open organic? Could I open it? So when the idea and the dream opens up again, what if? Why not? Why not me? Why not my wife and I? Why don't we do this? If there's no energy, here's what I'm saying, folks. When your health is not there, those things seem like a mountain, and you already fill in the blank with the excuses. All of the dreams you once had that you've let go of, you let go of them because you lost the amount of energy it requires to seek out that dream. So these last couple of years, by taking better care of myself, by having better health, by having more energy, by paying attention to everything, the food I eat, the things I listen to, the books I read, the people I hang out with, the time I go to bed, all of these things add up little bit by little bit to giving me an opportunity to be a better version of myself. With that being said, for all of us, I hear, it feels like I hear it all the time. Well, Doc, one beer is not going to kill you. And I hear people say this to me, Doc, you know how it goes. This was on vacation. One beer is not going to kill you, or a little of this is not going to hurt you. There's a yes and a no to that. That thing, correct. One beer's never killed anybody, and no pint of ice cream has killed anyone. But it is the decision-making process that goes along with it that does. It's the death by 1,000 cuts. And the entrepreneur, if that starts to happen and it starts to snowball like that, gets in a lot of trouble. So going back to are we in business for ourselves? We 100% are. Every single one of us is in the business of being the best version of ourselves. And then what happens as you just take better and better care of yourself, maybe one day you wake up and all of a sudden you're dreaming again. And you're not thinking of all the excuses. The excuses is the limitation of capacity. That limitation of capacity is what puts dreams to bed. And how do we increase our capacity? We take better care of ourselves. How we move, how we eat, how we think. So let me dive into, so fast forward again. So here we are a couple of years later. We now have a farm up on my farm today. Never thought of even owning a farm. Never thought that I could have a primary household and a second or third, a second home, and then on the farm have chickens and orchards and all that kind of stuff that takes energy. I don't even think about it because I have the ability, the capacity to do that. Many of you as entrepreneurs have figured out your next level in business is solely going to come down to your ability to have enough energy to handle all that comes with that next level. Because the next level brings more stuff. It brings more work, brings more headache, it brings more stresses. All of the above is true. So when someone asks me, Doc, I can't believe you do all that. Isn't it hard? In the back of my mind, I think, that's how I used to think when I wasn't healthy enough to do these things. So I'm encouraging you right now to think that you're in business for yourself. You are an entrepreneur. And if you're an entrepreneur and wondering, when am I going to break through? When am I going to get to that next level? When you have a relentless amount of energy. When I say energy, think of health. Physical health, meaning that you're strong, you're mobile, you have some endurance. Not by chance, because you're working on those things. Literally, you're getting some cardio done. Maybe you're getting some yoga and you're lifting weights. You're doing a little bit of everything. There's no weak links. Mentally, you realize and you recognize every time that you even whisper and displace responsibility. You blame someone else for getting sick. You blame the economy for not making money. The moment you recognize those and take full responsibility for all those, that's when we know we're doing it. So the less excuses we have, we know that we're taking ownership. And then I think as we go, this is always an interesting conversation to have, so I'll keep it short. The spirituality part of it. I think when I was young, I think I always, had faith, but I didn't necessarily use my faith. And I think at this point in my life that I recognize that the more I lean on my faith, it supports everything else I want in my life. It doesn't give me anything. I don't get to pray and say, hey, please God, give me a bunch of money tomorrow. I don't work that way. It gives me the opportunity to remember that I've been put here for a purpose. And if I kind of take advantage, if you even want to say, of that purpose to explore my life, to explore everything full tilt ahead, I then realize how important health is in this game. And if you do not have health, the long haul is going to be tough. All right. With that being said, let me give you 3 strategies that I think all entrepreneurs, if you are an entrepreneur by spirit or by any other factor that you want to call it, if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking, what are the 3 things I must focus on? I'm going to give you one type of vitamin herb. I'm going to give you 2 other things that I think will play the biggest role. And this comes from me observing thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs and seeing their shortcomings. It is very, very predictable when I have consults with entrepreneurs. And if you are an entrepreneur and you want to have that consult, I would love to have it with you. So I'll give you a unique thing. Entrepreneurs, we're good with our numbers. We have to be. You have to know your business numbers. You can't be an entrepreneur if you don't. And if you don't, know your numbers. If you're listening to me right now and you don't know your profit and loss for the most part, almost every month, and you don't know your end numbers, you don't know how much money's in the bank, you know how much revenue versus profit you're making, you're probably avoiding things on purpose. And how do I know? Because I've done that before. And as entrepreneurs, it is our responsibility to know the numbers. Now, I said everyone's an entrepreneur. If you are a mom, if you're a dad, if you're an employee, if you don't know the numbers, if you don't know the data, like how are your kids? How well they performing? How are their minds? How are their bodies? Is your mind? How is your body? Are you getting stronger? Are you weaker? Are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? Do you have the endurance you once did? This is how you keep score. There's data everywhere. And the more data we have, the better. So one of the questions I first ask an entrepreneur, so when's the last time you did a full panel? It was literally a lab panel, looking underneath all the rocks and checking out how everything is with this point in your life. If they say, I never have, I said, oh, that is exactly where you start, because you cannot, not that you can't, having the data will give more specificity to your strategy. So I'm not even putting this in the top 3 data. I'll put that as number 4. But if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't started to figure out exactly where you are, no guesswork here, because entrepreneurs shockingly have a lot of deficiencies that you would never thought, because they just thinking, I'm successful, I'm doing good, I feel fine today, but they haven't paid attention along the way, that 1,000 cut theory here. So, all right, with that being said, 3 things. Number 1, sleep. Entrepreneurs, don't pretend you can get away without sleep. I know there's going to be ebb and flow, but if you think I only need 4 or 5 hours, you're probably going to be on the losing side of this. Yes. And I know there's certainly somebody on TikTok or on Instagram who tells me, or maybe you're thinking of Elon Musk, I don't know, somebody that says, oh, I don't sleep. Yep. Well, that's a rare canary. That's what do they call that? A canary in a something. Anyways, that is rare. Folks, we need sleep to recover. That's when you sleep, your body recovers. It balances your hormones. It kills off toxins, kills off cancer cells. All of this is taking place when you sleep. If you don't, you continue to run off a hormone called cortisol, and that's why it feels like and it looks like you're just fine. And we now know just prolonged cortisol even affects things like dementia and Alzheimer's. And yes, there's a correlation for entrepreneurs having higher levels of this goes both ways, but some higher levels of Alzheimer's. And it is not because the entrepreneurship caused it. It's because of some of the habits that entrepreneurs have. So 1 is sleep. Guard it, protect it as if it is the most valuable asset that you have. You must invest in your sleep so you can be the best version of you every day. Number 2 is this. It's real simple. Avoid carbs and sugar, folks. Avoid carbs and sugar. Don't argue with this. Don't blah, blah, blah. and you love your carbs and sugars because as entrepreneurs, we are emotional junkies. That's the truth. So we love carbs and sugar, and we justify it because we work so hard. We need a little bit of a reward every single night. So maybe it's a little bit of dark chocolate. Maybe it's a little bit of a taste of ice cream. Got to avoid the carbs and sugar. Why? One, we know that it creates inflammation. The more inflammation you have, the more deficient you are going to become over time, death by 1,000 cuts of nutrients. So inflammation blocks nutrient uptake. And then we know the impact of carbs and sugar on the brain. We know that it shrinks the brain over time, that sugar destroys the brain. We know that it does things like raise blood cholesterols, and we know that it raises things like blood pressure over time. So all of the things that could be inhibitory for humans to expand and to excel in life, sugar and carbs are right at the front of this. So just get rid of them. Stop it. Apply it like you're just looking at a business decision. If you are less emotional about your food, you will win. All entrepreneurs understand this statement. So apply this to when it comes to your decision with food specifically. If you're negotiating a deal, let's say you're doing a real estate deal, whoever is the most emotional does what? They lose. So when it comes to your food decisions, if you are emotional about your food, and most of us are, that's why you have to acknowledge it. If we acknowledge the fact that the least emotional person in the negotiation of a deal usually wins, think of that same thing. You're making deals with yourself every single day. Every single time you reach for the chip, every single time you reach for or decide to go out and have some pizza, whatever it may be, you are negotiating with yourself, and the least emotional one will always win. And if you have better and bigger decisions about your health, that's how you win. All right, and the last one's not least. So the first one's get your sleep. 2, get rid of the carbs and sugar. And I know I'm so simplifying this, but for entrepreneurs, this is how simple and important it is. The third one I'm going to tell you is support your adrenal glands. Whether you think you have adrenal fatigue or not, I promise you, you are pushing them right to the edge every single day. They are the ones that help you protect you from stress. Once they get tired, our capacity to manage stress, the simple things, the big things, all of the above, they become weakened, and our capacity to handle more downregulates. One of the ways that I know, frankly, for myself, and I see for many entrepreneurs, that my adrenal capacity has gotten better over the years, is because I can handle more. And it just doesn't come with experience. Some people, the more years and years and years of having a ton of things go on, even though I have a ton of experience, it actually is what breaks them. Support your adrenal glands. I'm going to give you 2 things. I'll make sure in the show notes. There's one that's an adrenal tonic. If you've listened to the Health Made Simple show before, I talk about it all the time. It is a go-to for entrepreneurs because it's going to support your adrenal glands. It's going to support your immune system. It's going to support your recovery if you beat up your glands. So it is a perfect blend of 4 different herbs: echinacea, ashwagandha, which is even great for lowering cortisol, romania, repairing the actual gland itself, licorice root, which is a tonic for the entire body. Those 4 herbs in one little shot. With that being said, if you continue to allow yourself to support your adrenal glands, game on, baby. Game on. This is what's going to help you keep pushing, using a little bit of grit when it's needed, using a little bit of passion, but also making sure that you have the health. The second thing is a whole food vitamin that supports your adrenal glands. So we're going to feed your adrenal glands, and that's something called Drenamine. This is, if you want to think of a multivitamin for your adrenal glands, that's the one. Now, do I think that you should have a clean diet and that you should exercise and all of the above? Yes. What about exercise? How come that's not top 3? Because I tell you what, I think most entrepreneurs get the grit and the grind. You're supposed to exercise. I'm not even putting that in top 3. Do I think it's massively important? I sure do. I think collecting data, knowing where you are at this point in your life and measuring it year after year, absolutely huge. So, little quick summary here. We're all in business for ourselves, folks. We are all entrepreneurs, every single one of us. And as time moves and the speed of things move, we're going to have to be able to level up our games. Everything is moving faster and faster. So we're going to have to get better at doing more with less time, all of the above, maybe even less sleep. Hopefully not less sleep. Do I think that this is an excellent opportunity for us to take a look at how we approach our personal health? And if you are in business for yourself and you're looking to expand, I would challenge you and ask you, how are you going to expand who you are if you want to grow? Many of the invisible ceilings in entrepreneurship comes down to the fact that the individual doesn't grow, but they want their business to grow. And one does not happen with the other. All right, and the last three things here, my three top strategies for all entrepreneurs. One, make sure you get a recommended amount of sleep. I love measuring it. I think you should collect the data, probably somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. I think that every one of us should be avoiding all carbohydrates and sugar as frequently as you can, so we're not playing ping pong with our emotions. We're not going up and down with our energy, etc. Making sure that we're making good decisions. And again, get the emotions out of your food. That's a tough one. And I've said here 1,000 times on the Health Made Simple show, I'm an emotional eater, so I have to have good strategies, meaning that I do everything the best that I can to make sure that the ability or the potential for me to deviate is limited, meaning there are no cookies in this house, because there's cookies, probably going to eat them, right? Last but not least, support your adrenal glands. An adrenal tonic, and I'll put that in the show notes, and something called Adrenamin. Nice thing about the Adrenamin, you just need 2 a day. It is supporting your adrenal glands, not waiting down the road until something happens to them. If you guys are interested in collecting data, I'll make sure this is in the notes as well. I certainly can help anyone out there. We can collect the data. We can do it whatever state, doesn't matter. We can email you a requisite. We can collect all the data. We do a very elaborate, in-depth, over 120 plus markers. The goal is that the best we can, we figure out what your status is with the 4 horsemen of disease, which is cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, all that good stuff, potentials for cancers, potentials for neurodegenerative diseases. We look at your labs and figure out where you are today, what direction you're heading into, and if we need to change the direction, then we do so. All right, with that being said, folks, keep doing your thing, keep leveling up, make sure you continue to take deliberate action of your mind, your body, overall wellness. God be awesome.